Newsmaker Sunday with Fox 10's John Hook.
Thanks for joining us on Newsmaker Sunday. We're going to talk about the Arizona lottery. Where does the money go? What's the deal? Are there too many games? All of this stuff. Because the lottery, to a lot of people, you may play, you may not. But a lot of it is a mystery, frankly, to a lot of Arizonans, even though it was approved by voters by a pretty narrow margin back in 1980. So we're a ways into this experiment, no longer an experiment. And our guest this week on Newsmaker Sunday is Tony Bouie, who was appointed by Governor Doug Ducey at the end of January, took the job in early February. And I want to show you, good to see you. I want to show you a little bit of your history on the big wall. If you don't know Tony Bouie, here he is right here. All-American with the U of A, part of the Desert Swarm. Can you name every guy in that picture?
Oh, absolutely. Brandon Sanders, Teddy Bruschi, Jim Hoffman, and Sean Harris.
There you go.
Yeah, it's the Desert Swarm days. Look at those guns, John.
I know, very impressive. So how does an ASU guy like Ducey appoint a U of A guy who's in the Ring of Honor, by the way, down at U of A? How did that happen?
He's trying to dress up the place a little bit, right? Bring a few Wildcats
Are
into
we
the
starting
fold.
this already? All right. You got out of U of A. You went on to play professional football for the Bucks for Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 4 years. And then you end up going to the School of Business over here at ASU, the Carey, WP Carey. Yep. And that starts your journey on a whole nother track.
Yeah.
Tell me how that went.
You know what, I got my first master's at the University of Arizona while I finished while I was in the NFL. I retired in '98, so I ended up coming back to Phoenix and ended up buying a Chevron gas station convenience store. It was my first foray into business. And after about a year into that, I thought to myself, I don't know enough about business. So I ended up going back to school to get an MBA at WP Carey.
And then you continue down this business track. How do you end up in the lottery? How do you end up appointed by Ducey? How did that happen?
You know what, I ended up moving out of my own business and went to work for Circle K, ran the west side of Phoenix for Circle K, and then they went through the ownership changes from ConocoPhillips and from Tosco to ConocoPhillips and thereon. And then I ended up, starting my own business. I invented a product. I started a business while I was at WP Carey School of Business. I wrote a business plan, won the WP Carey business plan writing competition, won the first ever Edson Award, and then started my business, and I was off and running. And about 6 years ago, life was great. I was running that business. Beautiful wife at the time, two kids, 3 and 1, and I was diagnosed with, out of the blue, stage 4 lymphoma. And I'd always wanted to run for office, but I thought it'd be later in life. And so I said, life is short, let's do it now. I ended up running in 2008, narrowly losing in the primary for the Republican Party. And that set me off into a journey in being really involved in politics.
Now, people watching are going to say, African-American guy, Republican, whoa, what's that about? You grew up in New Orleans. How do you end up in the Republican Party?
I think it's not uncommon for people, African-Americans, to have the values of the Republican Party, but there's just an entrenched kind of lineage of people just signing the D on their name when they become of age to vote, which was my history. I grew up in New Orleans. My dad said, hey, selective service, check a D, there you go. Didn't vote in primary, so I really didn't see the R in the D ticket. It was, here's a ticket, you vote for whoever
general
you want.
Election. Yeah, you're just voting for whoever you liked.
Yeah. And when I really realized, it was my first year in the National Football League, my first check, and I got it and I looked at it, and it was, this is the coup de grace. You finally made it.
Yep. And you look at the taxes, right?
And half of it was gone.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember getting up from my locker room, walked to the front office to the accountant, and said, hey, I got a problem with where's the rest of it? And he's like, that's the government for you. And
no kidding.
That was the kind of genesis of me really thinking, that's not right.
That was the moment where you said, what is going on here?
Why didn't I get all the money that I've worked so hard for when I finally got to where I was going?
Very, very interesting. So let's fast forward to the lottery. As you know, voters approved it in 1980. So we end up with this thing, and I was around at the time and going to ASU, pardon me. And there was such a debate about whether this would increase gambling, whether this would lead to addiction, that this was a road that we may not want to go down.
Yeah.
What would you say to those folks now as we're, what are we, 35 years later?
Yeah, you really have to be responsible when playing. We give $300,000 a year to the Problem Gambling Fund, operated by the Department of Gaming. We message all of our players about being responsible when they play. And I'm to the on the side where I don't tell people what to do with their money, but we want to be responsible in what we do with the lottery. It's hard to replace $176 million in fund transfers, which we gave last year, and a record number,
Right.
by the way.
And even opponents of the lottery in the legislature say it'll never be repealed because there's no way you could replace those revenue streams.
Can't replace it.
Right. Let's talk about where the money goes, and we'll show some people playing, and I'll ask you in a minute about all the games that are going on. But obviously Powerball was a big deal, and I remember when Governor Symington appointed a new lottery director at that time from Kansas, I seem to recall. Mm-hmm. And Governor Symington said, we're gonna get into the Powerball business because there's big money in that.
Yeah.
This has been a good thing?
It's been a very good thing for Arizona. It is becoming a smaller portion of our product sales. Most of our, about 71% comes from instant tickets, the scratcher tickets.
Is that right?
Yeah. And the other remaining piece really comes from online interstate games, Mega Millions and Powerball.
Right, right. Let me run through some of these because I was astonished. I've got to be honest, Tony. I don't play a lot of the lottery games. I might buy a Powerball occasionally, but you've got Powerball, Mega Millions, the Pick, Fantasy 5, Pick 3, weekly winnings, all or nothing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's a lot of games.
The online games, which is what you're talking about, those are 50% margins for the lottery. So we love to sell those. The scratcher tickets vary from ticket to ticket what that margin is. But when we sell, in particular, the Pick or the Fantasy 5, we send 50% of that back. Is ours, and we send roughly 22 to 25%. What we generate back to the state.
This was an astonishing number. Since July of 1981, when they started really tracking it and when the money started rolling in, the Arizona Lottery has paid out more than $5.8 billion in prizes to players and more than $3 billion in net funding to the state and more than $686 million in commissions to retailers. What does that mean, commissions to retailers?
Commissions to retailers, they get commission of the sales and of what they sell.
An incentive to have it.
Yes, absolutely. And we also give top prize awards if they sell the top prize.
Right.
Like the Fries on West Avondale just sold the $6.2 million Pick ticket last week.
Right.
They'll get a pretty good check as a reward.
Did a winner come forward on that one?
Yes. He just came, I believe it was yesterday.
Anonymous?
Actually, he opted out of it, so he allowed his name to be released in this picture.
How do you feel about that, about releasing the name of lottery winners? And they have a choice now, don't they?
They do. SB 1047 allows them to remain anonymous for 90 days. They opt into that automatically.
Right.
If you want your name to release, then you've got to opt out of it. I think it's really important for the general public to see who we give the money to, that people are real. It goes to the integrity of the game, in my opinion. If people don't eventually see who it is, they think, did somebody win? Are they just giving it away? Are they keeping it at the lottery? So we need to make sure that we continue to show who is winning these tickets. Remind
me again, if you win, how long do you have to turn in a winning ticket?
You have 180 days after the draw, or if it's an instant ticket, scratcher ticket, you have 180 days after the game is pulled from the shelf to claim your prize.
Do we have a lot of unclaimed prizes in Arizona?
We do. Last year, it was about $5.7 million that was in the unclaimed prize fund.
That's a lot of dough.
It is. And believe me, we're going to do something about it. In my opinion, that is 180 degrees opposite of what the lottery should be doing, which is if you buy a ticket and you win, you should get your prize. I mean, that's kind of what the social contract really is. So we're going to be putting in technology going forward about if you win, we want to notify you before the 180 days is up. And that'll be a free opt-in program for people.
How would you do that? That would require a big technology change, right? You have to identify, the person has to identify who they are to make sure that they're reminded.
They would. So our largest vendor, we just went through a change, we're going through a change, excuse me, this coming summer. to a new online gaming company, and I'm working with them to get that into place. So you buy a scratcher ticket, you buy a pick ticket or Powerball, go online to your own account, scan it into a mobile app, or put the numbers into your player profile, and we have that information. If it comes up as a winner, we want to ping you before the 180 days is up. Hey, you've got a winning ticket in your pocket.
This is going to be a bonanza, because I would think the real barrier for a lot of people playing these games is inconvenience. They don't want to run down to a store and play. You're saying you're going to be able to play all this online.
Well, no, I'm not saying you're going to be able to play online. I'm saying you're going to be able to buy your ticket in person.
Yes.
And then scan it or type the numbers into your player profile. So we have it. So we make sure that if those numbers come up in our winning profile, that we can email you or whatever way that we. So that
they know who you are.
Yes.
Could you ever get to a point where you could start to play any of this online?
You know, some states have tried that. That's not a place that we want to go. We don't want to expand the lottery into a place that makes it too easy to play.
Yeah, interesting. So you want that barrier to a degree, so that it's not too easy to play.
As long as I'm there, I don't see us doing it.
You got in February. When you got in, what was the learning curve?
You know, just all the moving parts. I mean, it's such a niche industry. There's only 44 of us in the United States. That, you know, from the prize structure to the very few vendors that actually provide these services to the lotteries across the country, to working politically on how that works in each state is very unique, and you've got to really, bury your head in when you get there and make sure you know what you're doing. Is there a direction that you would say you're trying to take the lottery that may be different than Jeff Hatch-Miller, who had the job before you? Absolutely. Jeff did a good job, but I think, under my tenure, I want to do three things in particular. One is I wanted the lottery to be really transparent. So all of our contracts are going to be placed online. In the past, subcontracting with the lottery has been kind of invisible. What's the problem? You just feel the public needs to know who's involved? I think they need to know. I think they know where we spend our money. I think for small businesses that want to do business with the lottery, they should be able to bid on subcontracting opportunities. So I've, read all of our top 7 contracts and started amending them. So subcontracting opportunities will be visible. They'll be posted. So if we, buy shirts or buy media or whatever it is, small businesses will be able to bid on those opportunities. Being a small business owner myself, I think it's important that they have the opportunity. I can't say they're going to win, but they should have the opportunity to bid on our subcontract. And then what are the other things you want to do? Number 2 is we got to be more corporately responsible. There's a perception, which is not true, that the lottery preys on the poor. And to any way that we can mitigate that perception, we'll do it. So our billboards, which we spend millions of dollars on billboards, we are going to take those down or make them just generic messaging in low-income neighborhoods. The second thing we're going to do with that is we are not going to go actively recruit retailers in low-income neighborhoods. Now, if they come to us, that's different. It's our responsibility to license them. But we're not going there and trying to pepper low-income neighborhoods with retail locations. Does that come, may I ask, does that come from the governor? Or is that your own thought? No, these are my thoughts I've had from the day that I got the call. Do you need to run stuff by him and say, here's the direction I'm thinking of going here? They certainly want to be in the know, yes. Okay. And we give them kind of what the direction we're going. He's given pretty much every deputy director, agency director, the ability to be a CEO. And I think that's very telling of his personality. I wanted to ask you about that just quickly before we go to break, because we have to take a break here. But you've been able to size him up because you're a business guy. He's a business guy. Yeah. He talked about running this like a business. Are you seeing that? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We are, as directors, we are put through the gamut. We were the first, one of the first agencies to go through this lean management program. So our licensing program for retailers has been reduced by 50%. So if you want to be a retailer, it takes 50% less time than in the past to become licensed. Getting rid of regulation. Yep, that's absolutely. Something he's talked a lot about in the campaign. Yeah. We're back with Tony Bouie. He is the lottery director, has been since February of this year, and we'll continue our conversation on Newsmaker Sunday right after this.
Back on Newsmaker Sunday with your new lottery director. This is Tony Bouie. He was just a terrific safety for University of Arizona, and then he was an All-American at U of A, and then played professionally for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Went to WP Carey, got his degree, got your master's,
yep.
and into business of his own, and then becomes a lottery director. You did make one quick foray into running for office.
Yes, yeah.
As a Republican.
Yep.
But you narrowly lost. What did you learn from that experience?
You know, I met a lot of good people in politics. You know, other legislatures, other lobbyists as well, and I saw a lot of good people. But I saw a lot of room for growth in the quality of some of the people that were down there.
That's interesting. Let me circle back for a minute, because before the break we talked about 3 things you want to change as a new lottery director from your predecessor, Jeff Hatchmiller. We got through 2 of them. Mm-hmm. The final would be what?
Is to really make government efficient. You know, there are things that we do that I believe the private sector is better at and can be more efficient at. So what we're doing is we are going to outsource our sales force. We have 25 people that are in our sales department. They drive around in government vehicles and have phones and laptops, and they service all the locations. The problem is we can't pay them enough for what they're worth. We can't give them financial incentive that would really incite them to do even better. And I believe the private sector can do that. There are other lotteries that have done this that we're following the lead on.
Who's done that?
Texas has done it. The Hoosier Lottery, Indiana, has done it. And there are a number of others that have done it as well. So we're in negotiations right now about privatizing our sales force.
Yeah, interesting.
Which would save us roughly $2.5 million. It'll move that to a different category. It'll save us $2.5 million off our personnel services line, which allows us flexibility to do other things with the money that we're saving.
I mentioned at the outset, the lottery since 1981 has paid out $5.8 billion in prizes, more than $3 billion in net funding to the state of Arizona. Yeah. Where does the money go? The profits from the lottery? You
know, our mission is to responsibly generate net revenues for the benefit of Arizona programs. And so everything that we do, we've got to make sure that, one, we're using the taxpayers' dollar effectively and efficiently. But the net revenues that we create every single year, last year was a record year, $176 million. I'll read it because there are so many. Yeah. The Arizona Board of Regents, the University Bond Fund, we fund buildings that are medical and science buildings in their construction. Arizona Commerce Authority, we have $10 million of game and fish through the Heritage Fund. Mm-hmm. Court-appointed special advocates, which is a very, very worthy cause. Department of Economic Security and the Healthy Family Program and the Homeless Program. Department of Gaming through the Problem Gaming, Internet Crimes Against Children, which is very new this year.
Right.
The Local Transportation Assistance Fund, Tribal College Scholarship Fund, and the Victims' Rights Enforcement Fund. There are a lot of worthy beneficiaries that we statutorily.
Education gets a big chunk. Right?
Absolutely. You know what? We give, I think last year was about $66 million to the general fund, and that money is divvied up by the legislature. So whatever percentage of the general fund goes to education, that would be that percentage.
And that was one of the knocks on the way this is structured, is that some of that money goes into the legislature, and some of the tracking of that money, it's hard to know exactly, does it go to education or do the lawmakers spend it on something else?
You're absolutely right. There are other states that are only education lotteries.
Could that be coming? Is that a possibility, or would that require a change in statute?
That would require a change in statute, but it's been done. There are a number of other lotteries. There are several billion-dollar lotteries. 48% of those billion-dollar lotteries are education only. There's something to be said about this is where the money goes, and it only goes here. Right. But that would be a heavy lift.
Some of the money goes to roads, too, doesn't it?
It does. We, I believe it's $11 million a year goes to the Local Transportation Assistance Fund.
There's no undoing the lottery. You said 44 states have it now out of 50.
Yes.
Has tribal gaming impacted lottery revenues?
You know, there are 44 lotteries, and our statutory restriction on age is 21. we are only one of 3 lotteries out of the 44 that have it at 21. Everybody else has it at 18. And that's because of the compacts that really forced us to keep it at 21.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So tribal gaming actually influenced you in that area.
Oh, it does, yeah.
And the fact that there is so much gaming now in Arizona because of the tribes, does that hurt your bottom line? Do you feel they're a competitor?
You know, we look at every entertainment venue as a competitor, as a share of wallet. So we're competing with
There's
movie
only so much money to go around, right?
Yeah. So we've got to make sure that we are providing a product that is out there that's attracts the player that wants to play. When
you got in there, what was the biggest eye opener when you got in as lottery director? What were you like, wow, did not know that? What would that be?
How much money it takes to actually run the lottery. It's astounding. But I think the biggest thing for me was just to really delve into the contracts. In my opinion, it's a privilege to do business with the government, not a right. So when we have contracts with people, we got to make sure that they are giving them, us, the lottery, the state, the government, the taxpayer, exactly what the contract says, and it hasn't always been the case.
We're back with Tony Bouie. He is your new Arizona Lottery Director, appointed by Doug Ducey in January and took the job officially. Walked in the door in February. He's been on the job now for several months, and we're kind of getting a sense of where the money goes and how the lottery all works. Back in a minute on Newsmaker Sunday with Tony Bouie. Back on Newsmaker Sunday with the Arizona Lottery Director, Tony Bouie, former All-American for University of Arizona. I'm choking on the word.
Bear down.
Bear down. From a Sun Devil, this is difficult, but he's a good guy. All-American, part of that Desert Swarm team, amazing team, played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, got his master's in business and has been in his own business and ends up the lottery director here this year. What would you like people to know about the lottery? We've got a couple of minutes left. I wanted to kind of give you the floor, give you a chance to talk about.
Yeah. The lottery provides so much for the community. All 15 counties benefit, whether it's through commissions back to the retailers, whether it's through some of our community sponsorships, whether it's through prizes that we give back to people in their community. Arizona would not be able to function as it does today without the lottery.
So you think what voters approved in 1980 on balance has been a good thing, even though there was a lot of hand-wringing about whether this was good for the public? Yeah,
there can be, I guess, your argument made now that the lottery pumps so much money into certain programs that maybe the legislature has backed off. I mean, that's a whole political discussion I think that they can have down there.
That we become addicted to it.
Yeah.
Fiscally addicted to it.
It probably should be on top of whatever else they do. But, they can argue that till they're blue in the face down there. But I think the lottery is very, very needed. And under my tenure, we're going to make sure that we're responsible in advertising the lottery and the games that we put out.
What do you think is coming in this whole industry? What is out there on the horizon that we may not have even talked about in my world?
There are going to be states that delve into the online piece of it. They are. But like I said before, that's nothing that we want to do. We'll actually, see what happens. But there's a whole legal battle, not congressional battle, about RAWA, which is the Wire Act that they're trying to put on lottery.
A few seconds left. You mentioned to me in the break, this is a very highly secure deal, the lottery.
Yeah.
It is really a secure system.
Without people really believing that the lottery has the integrity, it falls apart. If people think we're shifting numbers or we're doing something nefarious, the whole thing will fall apart. So you have to make sure that the public believes in the integrity of the lottery.
Hey, listen, great to see you.
Thank
Congratulations on the job, and we'll have you back.
Yeah,
Tony Bouie, your lottery director for Arizona. Back on Newsmaker Sunday next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.